deep in the Montana wilderness, where mist clings to the pine needles and every sunrise feels like a hidden secret, Alex Monroe had left behind the hustle of Seattle for a more peaceful life. His only companion was Sky, a young husky puppy. But one foggy morning, during their usual trek through the pines, fate led them to something they never expected. A tiny, spotted ball of fur, barely clinging to life, with eyes still closed to the world. As the days passed, the Canada lynx kitten grew, its instincts becoming sharper. Could a domesticated dog and one of nature's most elusive predators form an unlikely friendship? This is the story of a fragile life saved and a bond forged that challenged the laws of the wild. The morning mist still clung to the forest floor as Alex Monroe made his way along the familiar hiking trail, the crisp Montana air filling his lungs. At 35, Alex had deliberately chosen this quiet life in Whitefish, trading the constant buzz of his former existence in Seattle for the tranquility of the woods. His decision had raised a few eyebrows among friends and family, but now, standing in the midst of towering pines with a distant silhouette of Glacier National Park looming ahead, Alex felt nothing but certainty. "Come on, Sky," he called, watching his 6-month-old husky puppy bound ahead, her silver-gray fur catching the early sunlight that filtered through the canopy. Sky had been Alex's companion for only 3 months, but their bond had formed instantly when Alex first laid eyes on those striking blue eyes at the local shelter. The energetic puppy had quickly become Alex's shadow, following him everywhere, from the rustic cabin's porch to his small photography studio in town. Photography had always been Alex's passion, but it was wildlife photography that had truly captured his heart. His cabin walls were adorned with stunning shots of elk, mountain lions, and bears, creatures that roamed these very woods. Yet, recently, the everyday moments with Sky had become his favorite subjects. The trail wound deeper into the forest, and Alex breathed in the earthy scent of pine needles and damp soil. The morning had started like countless others, breakfast at dawn, followed by their ritual hike before Alex would head to his studio. But today would prove to be anything but ordinary. Sky suddenly froze mid-stride, her pointed ears perking forward and her tail stiffening. Alex recognized this posture, her alertness signal, a behavior she developed when detecting unusual sounds or movements in their surroundings. "What is it, girl?" Alex asked, slowing his pace. Sky tilted her head, her nose twitching rapidly as she analyzed whatever scent had caught her attention. Then, with surprising gentleness for such an energetic puppy, she began pulling toward a dense thicket of huckleberry bushes. Alex followed, curious about what had so thoroughly captivated her. As they neared the bushes, Alex began to hear it too. Faint, barely audible mewing sounds, like the cries of a distressed kitten. The noise tugged at his heartstrings. He looked down at Sky, who was now visibly alert, her head tilting slightly as she listened. "Easy, Sky," Alex murmured, unclipping the leash to give the puppy more freedom while keeping a watchful eye on her. The last thing he wanted was for the curious dog to accidentally disturb the kitten. Sky moved forward with uncharacteristic caution, sniffing intently at the base of the bushes. Kneeling beside her, Alex gently parted the thick foliage, and there, nestled among the fallen leaves and twigs, was a tiny ball of spotted fur no larger than the palm of his hand. The creature's eyes were barely open, its small body trembling visibly. It let out a weak, pitiful mew, clearly terrified. "Well, I'll be," Alex whispered, immediately recognizing the distinctive markings of a Canada lynx kitten. Growing up in Montana, Alex had seen his fair share of local wildlife, and he knew instantly that this was a young lynx, a species native to these forests, but rarely spotted this close to human settlements. Sky whined softly, her nose just inches from the kitten, who responded with a pitiful mew that tugged at Alex's heartstrings. The puppy looked up at Alex, then back at the kitten, as if asking what they should do. Alex scanned the area carefully, looking for signs of the mother. He knew the risks. Adult female Canada lynx are fiercely protective of their young, and he had no desire to get between a wild mother and her baby. He stepped back, gently pulling Sky away to observe from a distance. 10 minutes passed, then 20, but no adult lynx appeared. "Something's wrong," Alex murmured, his concern growing as the kitten's cries grew more desperate. Her mother should have returned by now. With years of wildlife knowledge guiding his decision, Alex knew that Canada lynx kittens this young, he estimated no more than 3 weeks old, couldn't survive alone. The mother might have been killed by a predator, struck by a vehicle on the nearby mountain road, or even fallen victim to poachers who occasionally ventured into these protected forests. Making up his mind, Alex shrugged off his fleece jacket and approached the bushes again. Skye watched intently as Alex gently scooped up the trembling kitten, who felt alarmingly cold to the touch. Wrapping her in the warm fabric, he whispered, "It's okay, little one," cradling the small bundle against his chest. The kitten's eyes, still cloudy blue and not yet fully open, were filled with fear. Her spotted coat was matted with dirt and debris. She couldn't have been separated from her mother for more than a day, but in the cool mountain climate, that was long enough to put her at serious risk. Alex could feel the chill in the kitten's small body, and it worried him deeply. "Come on, Skye, we need to get her warm," Alex said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. Skye, always enthusiastic, sensed the seriousness of the situation. She trotted dutifully beside him, for once refraining from her usual exploratory detours, her usual playful nature subdued by the gravity of the moment. The walk back to the cabin was quicker, Alex's pace hastened by concern for the fragile life in his arms. Skye seemed to understand the importance of the situation and walked close by Alex, occasionally glancing up at the kitten, her expression one of curiosity mixed with caution. Inside the warmth of his rustic cabin, Alex placed the kitten on a soft towel near the wood stove and quickly retrieved his emergency wildlife care kit. As a certified wildlife rehabilitator, a skill he had acquired during his years working with a conservation group, Alex always kept supplies on hand for just such occasions. Though he had never expected to use them for a Canada lynx kitten, the kit was an invaluable resource in situations like this. "Let's see what we're dealing with," Alex murmured gently, examining the tiny creature while Skye watched with curious eyes from a respectful distance. The kitten was underweight and dehydrated but showed no signs of injury. Using a small syringe, Alex carefully administered a few drops of specially formulated milk replacer, which the kitten accepted weakly. It was a start, but Alex knew it would take more than this to pull her through. As he worked, Alex's mind raced through his options. The nearest wildlife rehabilitation center was over 3 hours away in Missoula, and with night approaching and the kitten's condition so fragile, the journey seemed too risky. He would need to do everything he could here to ensure the kitten survived the night. "Looks like you're staying with us tonight," Alex said softly to the kitten, who had fallen into an exhausted sleep after her feeding. "We'll get you proper help tomorrow." That night, Alex slept fitfully on the couch beside the makeshift nest he had created for the kitten, waking every 2 hours to offer more of the milk replacer. Skye, displaying unusual restraint, curled up on the floor nearby, his eyes rarely leaving the newcomer. The gentle rhythm of the night felt both comforting and tense, as Alex silently hoped the kitten would survive the night. Morning brought clearer skies, and with it, a renewed sense of hope. The soft light filtered through the windows of the cabin, casting a warm glow across the room where Luna rested. As Alex gently fed her, he noticed the kitten's growing strength, her mules becoming more demanding and energetic. She was beginning to show signs of thriving under his care, and that made him smile. After making sure Luna had eaten her fill, Alex reached for his phone and dialed the wildlife center. The line clicked open, and he immediately recognized the voice of Dr. Linda Winters, the center's director and an old colleague of his from his wildlife conservation days. "We're at capacity right now with the spring rescue season," Dr. Winters explained. "Honestly, with a kitten that young, transport itself could be stressful enough to compromise her chances." Alex listened intently, his mind already racing through potential solutions. "What are you suggesting?" he asked, watching Luna bat weakly at his finger in a playful gesture that made his heart swell. "Alex, you're certified. You've rehabilitated orphaned wildlife before," Linda reminded him. "If you're willing, you might be the best option she has right now. I can email you the specialized protocol for Canada lynx kittens and check in regularly." Alex glanced down at Skye, who was resting on the floor, his intelligent blue eyes trained on the conversation, before shifting his gaze back to the tiny lynx. She had endured so much already, and he wasn't about to let her down now. "All right," Alex agreed, after a brief moment of thought. "I'll do it. But I want to be clear, the goal is to rehabilitate her for release, not domestication." "Absolutely," Linda confirmed. "Wild animals belong in the wild, but she's going to need about 6 months of care before she's ready. You'll need to minimize human contact as she grows." After ending the call, Alex sat beside the kitten's nest, gently stroking her spotted fur. "Looks like you're staying with us for a while, little one," he murmured, his voice filled with both determination and affection. "I guess you need a name." He stared out the window, watching the light grow brighter as the morning sky filled with hues of soft blue and pink. "Luna, because I found you in the light of the morning." Sky padded over, sniffing curiously at the kitten before looking up at Alex with what seemed like approval. "This is going to be interesting, boy," Alex said with a chuckle. "Very interesting indeed." The first few weeks with Luna were challenging, as Alex adjusted his daily routine to accommodate the fragile needs of the young lynx. He transformed the rarely used guest room into a makeshift wildlife nursery, creating a safe and controlled environment for the kitten's rehabilitation. Luna required frequent feedings, often every few hours, and Alex learned to pace himself to meet her growing needs. With each passing day, the tiny lynx began to grow stronger, and her once feeble cries became more demanding. As Luna gained strength, her personality began to shine through. Sky's initial curiosity about the kitten evolved into a deep, protective instinct. He would often sit just outside the nursery door during feeding times, his ears perked forward, listening intently to Luna's mewing cries. When Alex would emerge, Sky would sniff him thoroughly, as though checking for traces of the kitten's scent. At 3 weeks of care, Luna's eyes had fully opened, revealing striking amber irises that gleamed with the wildness that was part of her heritage. Alex watched in awe as Luna's coordination improved daily, and he knew it was time to start introducing her to the outdoors, but only in carefully supervised outings. The first attempt went smoothly, with Luna showing her curiosity as she cautiously explored the small area near the cabin. The breakthrough came when Luna reached her 6th week. One evening, as Alex prepared dinner, Sky napped by the wood stove, while Luna roamed the living room, exploring under Alex's watchful eye. Suddenly, a mouse darted from behind a bookshelf, and Sky, already jumpy after a traumatic encounter with a pack rat, yelped in surprise and backed away. The mouse, emboldened by Sky's retreat, headed straight toward him. Before Alex could react, Luna's instincts kicked in. With startling speed, she pounced, pinning the mouse down with an accuracy that surprised him. A fierce growl rumbled from her throat as she subdued the rodent with the precision of a born predator. Alex quickly scooped up the mouse, planning to release it far from the cabin, but the impact of Luna's natural instincts was clear. Sky, watching the scene unfold, was cautious at first, but he seemed to gain newfound respect for Luna. He slowly approached, sniffing her with a sense of admiration. To Alex's surprise, Luna allowed Sky to come closer than ever before. When Sky gently nudged her with his nose, Luna responded by rubbing her head briefly against his muzzle, a tentative but clear gesture of acceptance. "Well, I'll be," Alex murmured, watching the moment unfold before him. He was amazed by the bond that seemed to be forming between the two animals, a connection grounded in mutual respect. Rocky, the aggressive pit bull, hesitated for a moment, his ears flattened, eyes narrowed as he sized up Sky, the loyal husky. Sky had always been a protector, but something in him had changed that day. There was an unexpected defiance in his posture, a challenge to Rocky's aggression. Without warning, Rocky lunged, and the two dogs collided in a chaotic blur of fur and snarls. Teeth bared, they grappled fiercely, each trying to gain the upper hand. Alex, who had been working outside nearby, instinctively grabbed a rake leaning against the fence. He sprinted toward the dogs, shouting commands, hoping to break up the fight. But the fight continued with intensity, and for a brief moment, it looked like Rocky might overpower Sky. As the pit bull pinned Sky to the ground, Luna, instead of running in fear as Alex expected, circled the scene with quick, jerky movements. Her amber eyes were fixed on the altercation. In a flash, Luna's instincts as a predator surged to the surface. She darted forward, using her sharp claws to strike at Rocky's hunches, then nimbly leaping away, narrowly avoiding the dog's retaliatory snap. The sudden attack was enough to startle Rocky, forcing him to lose his grip on Sky. With a quick, powerful movement, Sky regained his footing, launching himself back into the fray. Together, the husky and the lynx worked in synchrony, confusing the pit bull. Rocky, realizing he was outmatched, slinked back through the broken fence, retreating into the woods. Alex, breathless, quickly checked on his animals. Sky had several deep puncture wounds along his shoulder, but Luna appeared unharmed, though she was visibly shaken. He knelt down beside Sky, his voice soft as he examined the dog's injuries. "You brave, foolish dog," he murmured, applying antibiotic ointment to Sky's wounds. Luna, however, stood at a distance, watching intently. As night fell and Sky settled onto his bed near the fireplace, Luna surprised Alex by approaching the injured dog. She carefully curled up beside him, her lithe body warming the space beside Sky's. It was the first time the two had shared such proximity, their natural roles as predator and prey momentarily forgotten. Alex watched in silence, his heart heavy with the realization of what had just transpired between them. He captured the moment with his camera. The silver fur of Sky contrasted with Luna's tawny, spotted coat, both animals lying side by side in the soft firelight. The image captured something powerful. The bond between them, formed out of adversity and instinct, transcending their natural differences. The incident with Rocky, the aggressive pit bull, had spurred Jim Parsons to make the difficult decision to move to Arizona for his wife's health, taking Rocky with him. The departure of the pit bull left Alex with a sense of finality regarding Luna's future. It became clear to Alex that Luna's release was imminent, just weeks away. At 6 months old, Luna had blossomed into a powerful and skilled predator. Her once clumsy pounces had evolved into calculated, precise strikes. Her hunting skills in her outdoor enclosure were nothing short of impressive, and her success rate with live prey was nearing that of wild Canada lynx cats. Physically, she was ready for independence. However, Alex couldn't shake the worry that Luna's emotional attachment to Sky, and if he was honest, to him, could complicate her eventual release. He had always known that wildlife rehabilitation was about preparing the animals for the wild, but a bond had formed between the lynx and the husky that made this process more complicated than he had anticipated. Luna now stalked through her enclosure with fluid grace, her movements sharp and calculated as she practiced her hunting skills. Her amber eyes gleamed with the wild intelligence of her species, and Alex couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Yet, as he observed her, the nagging worry about her attachment to Sky remained. Despite her growing independence, Luna had become strangely connected to the husky, and Alex couldn't help but wonder if this bond would hinder her reintegration into the wild. Dr. Linda Winters, the wildlife veterinarian who had been overseeing Luna's rehabilitation, came for a final assessment. She observed Luna's behavior in the enclosure, carefully watching her movements and interactions with her surroundings. After a thorough examination of Luna's physical condition, Dr. Winters turned to Alex with a reassuring smile. "She's ready, Alex. Her hunting skills are excellent, and she's in peak condition." Alex, still conflicted, asked, "And what about her attachment to Sky?" Dr. Winters paused thoughtfully before responding. "It's unusual, certainly. But remember, wild Canada lynx cats sometimes form temporary alliances with other species when it benefits them. Luna's bond with Sky doesn't seem to have compromised her predatory instincts or her ability to be self-sufficient." They selected a release site together, an area of protected wilderness located 5 miles from Alex's cabin. It was within the natural range of female Canada lynx cats, but far enough away to encourage Luna to establish her own territory, rather than returning to the cabin. Alex had always known that releasing Luna into the wild would be difficult, but this moment felt especially poignant. The bond they had formed, despite all efforts to minimize human contact, would make her departure feel like losing a part of himself. Section 8. Expanded. The evening before Luna's scheduled release, Alex allowed her one final visit with Sky in the main cabin. The husky, who had always been playful and energetic, was unusually calm, as if sensing the significance of the occasion. His attentive blue eyes followed Luna's every movement. Luna, now sleek and muscular, with the tufted ears and striking markings characteristic of a Canada lynx, explored the cabin with her usual feline curiosity. Every corner seemed to hold a memory for her, and she took her time, sniffing, pawing, and surveying the familiar surroundings. Eventually, she approached Sky, and as was their custom, Luna rubbed her head against his muzzle in a gentle greeting. Sky responded with a soft nuzzle, his tail wagging in a slow, measured way. It was a moment of quiet connection, as if the animals themselves knew that this was the last time they would share this space. Alex watched the interaction, a lump forming in his throat. He murmured softly to himself, "You two defy everything I thought I knew about wildlife," his voice thick with emotion. "But nature has its way, and Luna, yours is out there." The words felt final. The release, the end of their time together, had arrived. Release day arrived with the crisp chill of early autumn. The Montana forest bathed in hues of gold and amber. Alex, who had planned this moment carefully, decided to go alone, fearing that bringing Sky would complicate Luna's departure. Instead, he carried Luna in a specialized transport crate lined with familiar bedding from her enclosure. Luna, now fully ready to face the wild, remained calm inside the crate, her amber eyes watching him through the bars. The release site, nestled in a clearing by a flowing creek, was perfect for Luna. Ample cover, small mammals for prey, and the solitude she would need to thrive. Alex placed the crate on the forest floor, kneeling beside it for one last time. He whispered softly, his voice barely above a murmur. "This is your true home. Be wild. Be free. Be who you were meant to be." With those words, Alex opened the crate door and stepped back, giving Luna space to emerge on her own terms. For several long moments, she stayed inside, taking in the new sense of the wild. Then, with a deliberate and graceful step, Luna exited the crate and into the dappled forest light. She paused, her amber eyes meeting Alex's one final time. A soft chirp, her unique form of communication, escaped her lips before she turned and bounded into the underbrush, her lithe body moving with effortless speed. Alex watched, motionless, as Luna disappeared into the forest. The profound loss he felt was tempered by a deep sense of satisfaction. This was always the goal, to see her thrive in the wild. As he turned to leave, a sense of finality settled over him. The walk back to his truck felt lonelier than anything he had experienced before. Sky, when Alex returned, greeted him with subdued enthusiasm, sniffing his clothing and looking past him as if expecting Luna to appear. When he realized she wasn't coming back, the husky's disappointment was palpable. The weeks following Luna's release were marked by the onset of winter. Snow began to blanket the Montana forest, transforming it into a winter wonderland. Alex, focused on photography assignments and cabin maintenance, kept busy, but there was always a quiet part of him that missed the presence of Luna. Sky, too, had returned to his usual cheerful demeanor, though he still paused on their walks, alert to sounds that reminded him of Luna. He would sniff the air, his head tilting, as if expecting her to emerge from the woods. Nearly 2 months after Luna's release, as Alex and Sky were walking through the forest, something unusual happened. Sky froze, his ears perked forward, his body trembling with anticipation. "What is it, boy?" Alex asked, following the husky's gaze toward a dense stand of pines. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, out of the corner of his eye, Alex saw it, movement. A tawny spotted form slipping between the trees. "Luna," Alex whispered, his heart leaping in his chest. The Canada lynx emerged into a patch of sunlight, her coat now thicker for the winter, but her markings unmistakable. Luna paused at the forest's edge, watching Alex and Sky with her alert amber eyes. Alex unclipped Sky's leash and gave him a gentle nod. "Go on, boy," he said quietly. Sky approached slowly, his movements cautious, stopping several feet from Luna. She remained still, allowing him to come closer. When they were just inches apart, Luna stretched forward, briefly touching her nose to Sky's, an unmistakable gesture of recognition. For nearly 20 minutes, Luna and Sky shared a quiet reunion. No loud greetings or boisterous play, but a dignified mutual acknowledgement of their bond. When Luna finally melted back into the forest, Sky watched her go without attempting to follow, seemingly understanding the new boundaries of their relationship.